And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we will be discussing what's going on with Ethereum and whether or not it will become censored and centralized once we move to ETH 2.0, also known as the merge, which is scheduled to happen on September 19th. Now, I want to be very clear with you. Something happened that really triggered me to really start asking certain questions. Before you could dismiss it as, oh, that's just the DApp running on top of Ethereum in regards to what happened with Tornado Cash. But then OFAC stepped in. And when OFAC started going after the actual Tornado Cash developer, and then I saw that USDC, which is controlled by Circle, was actually blacklisting certain addresses, Ethereum addresses. And then this thread started circulating on Twitter as to, in the event when we move to proof of stake, and for those of you who do not know what proof of stake is, right now, currently, Ethereum is utilizing proof of work, which means that you're basically trying to brute force and guess a number, which utilizes a lot of electricity and energy. Now, currently, right now, all you need is a GPU to be a miner inside of on the Ethereum network. But once we move over to proof of stake, effectively what they want you to do is to have a certain amount of stake in the network. Now, the reason why they're doing this is because, quote unquote, proof of work is bad for the environment. Now, I'm not going to get into that debate right now because that's not the topic of tonight's discussion. But you need 32 Ethereum in order for you to be a validator on the network. I run multiple validator nodes. Here's the problem. The average person doesn't have 32 ETH. As of today, 32 Ethereum will cost you well over $63,000. So effectively what happens is most individuals ends up giving their crypto to exchanges to stake for them because you may only have 5 ETH or 7 ETH, but you want to earn passive income for doing that. Because when you are a validator in a proof of stake network and you validate the authenticity and state of the chain, you earn passive income. You earn the transaction fees as well as any inflation that may be in that particular block. Here's the problem. If OFAC can basically go after anyone that's utilizing the Tornado Cash smart contract, and the actual company Circle can decide that they want to blacklist certain addresses, who's to say that the US government won't say to exchanges like Kraken, Coinbase, and Binance, hey, we want you to start censoring certain transactions? Because effectively what's happening right now is if you interacted with the Tornado Cash mixing service, your address is blacklisted. So therefore, any transactions that you have that's affiliated with your wallet that's linked to Tornado Cash, you cannot utilize the front end of something like an Aave. And therefore, if you utilize the actual Tornado Cash smart contract going forward, you can be sanctioned, you can be fined, and even thrown in prison. So now we have to start saying to ourselves, will these exchanges follow suit in the event that a nation state like the US government says, we want to start targeting particular addresses or transactions? Will they start censoring individual transactions and individual addresses? Because remember, Coinbase has to follow these rules and regulations. And if everyone is staking their crypto at these exchanges, that becomes a problem. Because now, and I'm going to get into the data today, we're talking about well over 70% or 65%, give or take, depending on which metrics you're looking at, of the actual ETH is staked with major exchanges. So that's well over 51% of staked Ethereum. That becomes a problem. Because again, now we're talking about censorship at the protocol level. See, when you are looking at Aave and Aave decides that, hey, we want to block any address that's affiliated or linked to Tornado Cash, you still can access, that's just the front end. You still can interact with the smart contract by compiling and running your own code from the command line, or you can even go to Etherscan and still interact with the smart contract. So there's ways around that. But now we're talking about the protocol level, right? So this is very, very important because remember, whenever you are sending a transaction, that transaction is placed in a mempool, which means that the miners, right, or in this case now the validators, they have to select those transactions and construct a block and then propagate that out to the network. Well, in the event that that transaction is deemed illegal or bad by the government, do you think that Coinbase is going to want to risk being fined or sanctioned by including that transaction in a block that they're propagating? Absolutely not. So when I look at this, we have to look at this and approach this from a mature perspective. There's the technology side of this, the decentralized aspect of this as to why I'm here. But then we have to also look at it from the standpoint of this is going to be beneficial in regards to, quote unquote, getting institutional adoption. Because from the standpoint that Coinbase and you have Kraken and you have a Binance and all these major institutions and exchanges getting involved from that standpoint of being validators and stakers, that means Ethereum's already going to be compliant, which means that they're going to be compliant with the US government. So on one end of the spectrum, I can see where this is going to be beneficial because they're going to be compliant with regulators in the need that they need to censor transactions. But then at that point, Ethereum is no longer censorship resistant. And the whole idea of this technology is to be permissionless, borderless, and censorship resistant. So I think this is good for the price long term. I think this is good for adoption long term. But I think this is dangerous for the technology. And many of you know that I've been here talking to you about the Great Reset, the Fourth Industrial Revolution. And if you have large institutional players who are controlling large amounts of the actual consensus layer or large amounts of, the staking pools, well, then that becomes a problem. And this is one of the major problems and fears that many had with proof of stake in regards to, will this be good for price? Will this be good for adoption? Absolutely. But is this good for the ideals as to why people got involved in crypto? And I'm going to dive a little bit more deeper into this. I just kind of want to introduce you to what we will be speaking about and what we will be talking about tonight. So please do me a favor and like this video, share this video, subscribe. Make sure that you hit the notification bell and you set it to all so that you can receive all of my notifications when I decide to go live, because YouTube doesn't send out my notifications. Also, in the description below, there is a telephone number. If you text the word YouTube to that number, you're going to be added to my text message list so that when I go live, you are going to be notified via text message, hey, I'm getting ready to go live. Also, a link to my Instagram page is in the description below. If you want to follow me on Instagram, because I also create content over there, feel free to do so. And please be mindful that there's a lot of people out here that's impersonating me, that's making clones of my page and trying to scam you. I do have investment opportunities. If you are looking to invest in the nodes that I have or the DeFi opportunity that I have, another, again, word, invest, is in the description below. You will text that same number in my description, the word invest. So if you want to get on my message list, well, so I can notify you when I go live, you text the word YouTube. If you want to get on my investors list, you're going to text the word invest to that number. It will segment you and put you on different lists. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, after you text the word invest to that number, I'm going to send you videos breaking down the different investment opportunities. If you are interested after watching the videos, you are going to respond with the word yes with both your name and email. And then you and I are going to hop on a Zoom conference call. It is extremely important that you follow those instructions because, again, there's a lot of people out here trying to impersonate me and scam you. Follow the instructions and you'll be okay. Do not send money to anyone without speaking to me face to face via Zoom. Also, I am the founder and creator of My Tech Academy. We cover all things Web3, how to buy, sell, store crypto, how to create your own NFTs, how to yield farm, how to stake your coins, and so much more inside of DeFi. We currently have a free 3-day trial. We also have a coding bootcamp going on. We're moving into the JavaScript portion as we speak right now. And I'm also bringing on in-house an IT professional that has over 12 years. So for many of you who are looking to get involved in this technology from an entrepreneurial standpoint, from an employment standpoint, from an investor standpoint, My Tech Academy is going to be your go-to place for all things Web3. And we currently, right now, we have a free 3-day trial. A link is in the description below. We also, too, have opened up consultations. If you're looking to book a consultation, we also offer that service as well. Again, there are multiple instructors involved in My Tech Academy. It's not just me. And we're bringing on an IT guy that's really, really good, has over 12 years of experience, all of the certifications that you could possibly need and want. With that being said, guys, if you can hear me clearly and you can see me clearly, simply type 1 and we can get started. So what is Big Stepper saying? Eli, just admit that you were wrong. What was I wrong about? It amazes me how people come in here and they say, just admit that you're wrong. What are we wrong about? This is a fear that people may have. At this point, what we're talking about tonight has never even happened. No validator has blocked any transactions whatsoever. We're having a conversation of a hypothetical. It amazes me how people come here and they just say things like, you don't even know what we're talking about right now. No validator has blocked any transactions. We're talking about a hypothetical as to what can happen. But what I will do, because I mean, there's no reason for you to be here. If you just want to simply come here and troll, we can get rid of you, right? There's no reason for you to be here. It's just actually stupid, right? The whole purpose of this platform is for us to be educated and informed as to what's going on and understand that as the facts changes, as the data changes, you have to change your thesis and your thought process. As of right now, when you see the fact that you have protocols, dApps, such as Aave, censoring addresses because they've interacted with Tornado Cash, one must have to ask themselves, because remember, as of today, right now, if an address in a transaction has participated in a mixing operation with Tornado Cash, you can still add that transaction to a block. What we're talking about is that when we move to proof of stake, we currently are not, Ethereum isn't a proof of stake blockchain as of today. It is a proof of work blockchain today. We're talking about hypothetically in the future, when Ethereum moves to proof of stake. In the event that OFAC comes in and lets Coinbase know or Kraken know that, hey, you have to abide by these rules and regulations, will they start censoring transactions? I want to make sure that we are clear here. This has not happened yet. This is a hypothetical that I believe is a serious threat. It has not happened yet. Okay? Very, very clear here. So what we need to do first is come here. And right now it says that an alleged Tornado Cash developer suspected of facilitating money laundering has basically been arrested. And this becomes a problem because, as I said to you guys before, and I've said it time and time again, they cannot break the technology. The technology is decentralized. What they're going to try to do, the powers that be, is come after the individuals that create the technology or the individuals that use the technology. So now, in the case of Satoshi Nakamoto, this is exactly why Satoshi wanted to remain anonymous. Because in the event that you're not anonymous, they can come after you, like they did come after the developer of Tornado Cash. Now, let's take a step back. Privacy is something that is needed. You know, I love when I hear people try to say things like, well, why do you need privacy? That's like saying, why do you walk down the street with clothes on? No one walks down the street naked. At least no rational person does. You wear clothing because you want to protect your body. It's the same thing with your bank account. No one walks around and shows their entire bank account balance. No one does that. That's stupid, right? But with crypto, if I have your address, I can see all of the other addresses that you've interacted with. I can see people who you sent crypto to, and I can see people who you've received crypto from. That becomes a problem. So that's why people would want to use something like Tornado Cash. Now, what Tornado Cash does is it allows you to basically take your crypto address and take the crypto that you want to actually mix, and you're going to mix it up with a bunch of other different transactions. And on the output, you're going to have your other address. Like you're going to have a receipt to claim it from a different address. So what it does is it kind of obfuscates or breaks the links between your previous transactions and going forward, because now you have a fresh address where all of the other Ethereum or ERC20 tokens are mixed up in a way where it's very hard to track the origin and the previous history. So this is why people use mixing services. Now, it's alleged that North Korea, right, some North Korea hackers, right, actually utilized Tornado Cash, which is why OFAC stepped in. Now, earlier, what started happening was that you could not use, if you had any, and this is one of the problems with the account model that Ethereum uses versus Bitcoin that uses a UTXO based model. So the way that Bitcoin is constructed is that each individual transaction is its own separate transaction, right? So for example, think of it as like dollar bills, right? Let's say you had a $100 bill, a $10 bill, and a $5 bill. You have $115. Each bill is different. So when you go to the store, if you needed to buy something for $113.25, you would take all three bills, combine them together, give it to the cashier, and then she's going to give you back change. That's effectively how Bitcoin works, where you have these inputs coming into your wallet, right? Each input is, let's say one is made up of $100 worth of Bitcoin, $10 worth of Bitcoin, and $5 worth of Bitcoin. You're going to combine those transactions together, send that crypto as an output, that Bitcoin as an output, and the change is then sent back to your address. Now, what you can do in Bitcoin is in the event that, let's say, the $5 is part of a tainted transaction, you don't have to spend that $5 UTXO. So you can pick, if you have a good wallet, which UTXOs you want to spend and which UTXOs you don't want to spend. Now with Ethereum is just simply an account model. So once you receive that mixed Tornado Cash Ethereum in your wallet, your entire address now is tainted. So what was happening is that if you came over here to the actual front end, so this is the front end of a website. This is also known as a GUI, a graphical user interface, because it's easier for the average person to simply come here, click launch app, and use this application. Now, what's going to happen is this application right here that you're using for the front end has an API that's going to make a call to a database. You're also going to make a RPC call as well. And it's going to call and try to query information from the blockchain. But the front end, because they have to abide by US rules and regulations, they can block your address. But understand, you still can come over here to Etherscan and simply click on the contract, and you could come right down here and you can read and write to the contract on your own. You can even do this from the command line on your computer. So when people talk about that the technology is decentralized, Aave is decentralized. And I see so many people talking about things and they don't know what they're talking about, right? The front end is different from the back end. Remember, when you are interacting with a website, that data is being sent to a server, to a database somewhere. You're requesting information and then you're submitting information. you can just simply go and compile and run the contract on your own. So when we start talking about it being decentralized, Aave is decentralized. The smart contract is decentralized. You can still interact with the smart contract without going through the front end. The reason why we have front ends like this is because for the average person who's not tech savvy, it's easier to simply go here and click this button and use DeFi. Here's where the problem begins to set in. And this is what made me start really asking questions. Because if you have USDC that is affiliated or linked to an address that engaged or used Tornado Cash, well, then Circle started banning these addresses. Now, this becomes a problem because now what you have to start saying to yourself, how much of the USD stablecoin, and for those of you who do not know, because I like to teach while I'm speaking, USDC is a stablecoin that is backed by actual real dollars, right? So you put $1 in, you get $1 out. The problem is the parent company, this is a centralized entity. So what they can do is they can actually blacklist your actual address. So that becomes a problem now because that USDC that can potentially be confiscated is sitting in a lot of maker vaults, is sitting in a lot of different DeFi protocols. So for example, like if we come over here to Beefy Finance and we launch the app, you can come here and you can see that there's some vaults. So let me close this. I don't want to open this up right now. Right here, for example, you have these vaults here that have USDC and USDT in it. And there's $2.3 million locked in here. Now, again, there's literally there's billions of dollars, real dollars, that's out here in the DeFi ecosystem. So this becomes an attack vector from a regulatory standpoint. Listen to me. It's important that we understand the nuance to the conversation. We're not talking about a hacker attacking the protocol. We're talking about if the government steps in and decides that certain transactions should not be included in blocks or certain addresses because of their political affiliation. Let's say that you're a conservative. Let's say that you're a part of the Proud Boys or a group of people that, the KKK, whatever it may be. Let's say that you're, pro-human rights. Any event that they want to censor you, they can step in and censor you now. So now you have to start saying to yourself, DeFi clearly, any DeFi protocol that has USDC sitting in a liquidity pool or sitting in a vault, that's a problem now. Now, let's take it one step further, because now you have DAI. DAI is an algorithmic stablecoin. And the way that DAI works is that you have Maker. So Maker is supposed to be a decentralized central bank that is sitting on top of the Ethereum protocol. Remember that when you have a dApp, it's a decentralized application sitting on top of the actual base layer blockchain. Okay. For every DAI that's in circulation, there has to be a certain amount of collateral to bring that into the DAI into circulation. So you need to have $150 that's worth of USDC to get $100 worth of DAI. Here's the problem. In the event, right now we're looking at this, right? So it says DAI generated by collateral. Over half, 51% of the DAI that's generated, the collateral backing it is USDC. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Because as I said before, in the event that the government decides, hey, Circle, we want you to flag these addresses, what happens to that collateral? That collateral is pulled out of the system. Well, then what happens to these DeFi protocols? Now, we witnessed what happened to UST, right? Terra Luna. What happened when they didn't have sufficient capital and collateral backing them? We watched the stablecoin, right? Literally depeg and lose its peg. Now, I'm not saying that that's going to happen to DAI, because I believe that this is going to make institutions feel comfortable putting their money into Ethereum, putting their money into DeFi. The fact that there is some type of a mechanism to control the protocol. But from a decentralized standpoint, this becomes a serious problem. Now, when we come here and we look at this, and now we get to Ethereum, and we start talking about at the protocol level. Remember, the protocol is supposed to be neutral. No one entity or entities or groups of people should be able to censor transactions. But when we come here and we look at this, and again, this is one of the beautiful things about open finance, the concept of decentralized finance, is everything can be queried and found in regards to where the money is at, how many validators are on the network. So for Ethereum right now, we have 416,000 validators on the Beacon chain. But here's the problem. 32% of this is liquid staking. This becomes a problem with Lido. So if we come here, we can actually look at this and we can see the Beacon chain depositors over time. And look at this. Look at the major depositors. Lido has over 4 million. You have Coinbase, you have Kraken, you have Binance. Over here, you can see the breakdown again. You can see that you have Lido. This is Coinbase, Bitstamp. These are all centralized exchanges that have to abide by OFAC's rules and regulations. So now, remember, going back to what I was saying to you earlier, you need 32 Ethereum in order for you to be a validator. Most of you do not have 32 ETH. So what happens? You give your Ethereum to a middleman, to an exchange. So now you have to think about the fact that these exchanges, this is 31%, this is another 25%, Coinbase has 14%. That's well over what, 30, 40, that's 56, 70%. 70% of all ETH is locked up in regards to staking and validators, is locked up into decentralized exchanges. So now, this thread came out, and I love this thread because it asks a very great question. Question for Lido Finance, Coinbase, Kraken, Stake US, and Bitcoin Suisse. If regulators ask you to censor at the Ethereum protocol level with your validators, will you A, comply and censor at the protocol level, shut down the staking service and preserve the network integrity? And then here we go. This is Brian Armstrong, who is the CEO and co-founder of Coinbase. He said, it's a hypothetical. And again, guys, I want you to understand, please don't be idiots here. Listen to what I'm saying. This has not happened yet at the protocol level. But if you're a three-dimensional thinker, you can start to see where we're going. So now he says, Brian Armstrong, it's a hypothetical we hopefully won't actually face. But if we did, we'd go with B, I think. That means no, you're not going to go with B. Most likely you're going to go with A. But it says, got to focus on the bigger picture. There may be some better option C or a legal challenge as well that could help reach a better outcome. Now, we already know Coinbase is full of it, and we know this because we know for a fact that Coinbase was out here selling data, your data, to ICE. And we know for a fact that they work with Chainalysis. So we know for a fact that if push comes to shove, that they're definitely going to cooperate with the powers that be. So now, going back to the troll, why are we having this conversation? Because the merge doesn't need to happen. And the merge should not happen. It's clear right now that there's certain attack vectors that, and I follow all of the best and brightest and smartest minds in Ethereum in the community. I've yet to come across anyone that has proposed a decent response to a legitimate critique and question. The merge should not happen. We should stick to proof of work the way Ethereum is currently constructed. Why? Because moving to proof of stake doesn't make Ethereum more scalable. So we're not going to benefit from that. Transaction fees are still going to be high, even when we move to proof of stake. When you think about the fact that when you look at Bitcoin, you know, in regards to its consensus algorithm and the mining algorithm, we're talking about literally a few hundred lines of code, where with Ethereum, we're talking about thousands of lines of code, which again, creates a larger attack surface. The more lines of code you have, the larger your attack surface can potentially be. Also, when you look at it from the standpoint of, think about how many apps, decentralized applications, are going to have to port over. That's going to be a problem. So clearly right now, the way that the merge is going, they do not have a solution for a nation state attack in the event that OFAC says you have to block these addresses and transactions coming from that particular address. Because remember, when you transact, your transactions are put into a mempool. And then what happens is that miners have to come together, or block producers have to come together and construct a block. And then what happens, you give that block to a validator, and then a validator is going to broadcast that and propagate that out to the network. In the event that a miner or a block producer realizes, if I put this transaction in this block, it's a potential that the validator is going to reject that block. They're not going to do it. That means you're censoring at the protocol level at this point. And this is a strong hypothetical that we have to think about, because this step with OFAC and with Circle regulating and shutting down any address in regards to USDC that has interacted with Tornado Cash becomes a problem. And these are the conversations and questions that you need to make sure that you're asking yourself. Now, another thread that I came across that I really liked is this individual right here, where he says US validators, which includes very powerful Coinbase, are going to push for protocol level censorship. They can't self-help by merely avoiding facilitation of blocks containing US sanctioned transactions, because under certain conditions, they might be dramatically slashed from doing so. This is a major can of worms. I hope I'm wrong, but it's the logical outcome, unless they can reach a major legal breakthrough that gives them safe harbor, clarifying that merely signing a block with sanctioned transactions does not violate OFAC. So, and I want to also read this thread here too. So it says, by the current OFAC implementation, this is not simply sanctioned addresses or those who previously interacted with Tornado. This could very quickly become a major part of the Ethereum ecosystem. The only basis for censoring non-Tornado Cash addresses is assuming that everyone who was a Tornado Cash depositor on the sanctions date is part of an entity, and therefore when Ethereum is withdrawn from Tornado Cash to a certain address, that entity also owns the crypto in that address. Absurd, of course. This is a base layer protocol censorship. It was one, I just read this one, right? So it says, make Coinbase, Kraken, Bitcoin Suisse understand that complying with OFAC is not an option. It will result in slash stakes for all their customers in the end of their business. Make them unstake now if they don't plan to uphold censorship resistance. Now, again, this is Eric Wall. He changed his name to Erica Wall. He likes to troll online, but this is a serious matter. As I said before, these are the type of conversations that should be going on. The problem is the merge is literally, when we think about it, literally, it's about what, about a month and 3 days, a month and 2 days away. Now, again, the merge has been delayed multiple times. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not delayed again, because, again, what OFAC just did changes the game. And I've been talking to you on this channel about this for a very long time in regards to that. They can't break the technology, but what they can do is they can go after individuals. And if you come here and you have large amounts of your crypto staked with Lido, Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, Stake US, and Bitcoin Suisse, that becomes a problem. And you can see here, like literally, you have millions of Ethereum locked up with these individuals, and that becomes an extremely, extremely, extremely large attack vector, because now I don't have to come after you, the individual. I can just go to Coinbase and say, you better censor these transactions. And now you have censorship at the protocol level. This is why proof of work is superior to proof of stake, because proof of stake, and one thing you have to understand about energy versus capital is it's very easy to centralize capital. it's hard to centralize energy. Why do I say that? Just look at the wealth in this country. Most of the wealth in this country is calcified at the top. So it's very easy for very, very rich people to collude together with capital than it is to collude together with energy, right? Because at the end of the day, energy is all over the world, and you can't just transport energy to one particular region of the world. So it's from a decentralized standpoint, from a game theoretical standpoint, from an attack surface standpoint, proof of work is much more superior, in my opinion. It's much easier for a person to get a GPU and start mining Ethereum with the proof of work blockchain than a person getting $63,000 for 32 ETH, as well as being able to have the technical knowledge to run their own node, as well as being able to go out here and buy the hardware. Now, understand, for me even having this conversation, I'm actually speaking against my own bag. Remember, I have millions of dollars worth of Ethereum between myself and my investors. I run multiple validator nodes. So I'm currently invested in ETH 2.0. And I understand what's going on here. This is a way of the bankers coming in and basically controlling Ethereum. That's the reality. Now, again, it's going to be great for price. And I think that we need to be mature in the conversation that we're having. This is going to be great for the price of Ethereum. It's going to pump Ethereum. It's going to bring more adoption, more institutional money. Why? Because they're going to be regulatory compliant in regards to if the feds need them to shut down certain things, they will be able to do that. But from a censorship standpoint, this is horrible. And it's not good. And we have to be mindful of that. And as I was saying earlier, when you start thinking about now going after developers who's working on this technology, code is supposed to be a part of free speech. So open source software should not be able to be regulated the way that is being regulated. And people who create open source technology should not be attacked by the government. Now, this is probably going to play out in the Supreme Court, but we know that this is going to take years before that actually happens. So we have a Dame Dash in here. So I love the trolling. And listen, I appreciate the donations because it takes a lot of time to put together content. It takes a lot of time to go out here and do research and to bring you guys quality content. So I definitely welcome the donations. Thank you, Dame Dash. She says, yeah, that's all cool and everything, but just keep my name out your mouth or I'm going to pull up for the fade, homeboy. Listen, I mean, I welcome that. No problem. I'm going to decentralize your jaw if you do another video about me, bro. No problem. Thank you. Liquid staking, GG, USA don't matter, sir. I don't really understand that particular comment, but I understand that at the end of the day, this is problematic. There's just no way of getting around it with the fact that USDC, so much of it is tied up in liquidity pools. The fact that, again, they can pull that liquidity at any moment and they can deem, certain transactions to be illicit or bad, that becomes a problem. And remember, the sole purpose of this technology was to get rid of middlemen. And and I talk about this all the time on this channel. It amazes me how people are so quick to run and give their crypto to middlemen all the time. Now, in regards to Bitcoin, remember, Bitcoin is the cream of the crop for a reason. It is king for a reason. Because when Satoshi created it, he created it to be the hardest form of money to be able to actually withstand government attacks. I definitely looked into the PBS, and I will be talking about that. I was looking into, it's funny you said that because I was looking into this guy right here. I always say his name wrong, Hashu, who was talking about this with MEV Boost and different things like that. So definitely looked into that. No, that and I'm glad you mentioned that. That's fake news. And see, this is why it's important that, like, who you get this information from, because that's fake news. Someone was sending around You actually, I literally just had it up here. It was, here we go. Right? This document that's circulating is actually fake news. This is actually fake news. So you have to be mindful as to who and what you listen to and why you listen to them. Because again, it's very easy for especially the guy Crypto Whale, because he was the individual tweeting this stuff out. I like to confirm from multiple outlets, and I also like to be able to go and pull up the actual court document myself. If I can't actually go to, some type of a government website and be able to pull up the document myself, I don't really trust a lot of these things. You know me, I like to sit here and read this information as we go forward. So it's very, very important that you understand that people have agendas with crypto. And this is what I was saying before, like when I blocked the individual earlier. It is important that you understand this has not happened yet. No validator has censored transactions at the protocol level. It has not happened yet. This is a hypothetical that is being posed, but it's a strong hypothetical because, again, if so much Ethereum is concentrated in these exchanges' hands and they have to abide by US rules and regulations or they will be fined, will they start censoring particular transactions or won't they? Now, from a price standpoint, the more regulatory compliant you are, the more money is going to come to your coin. You have to think about the trillions of dollars that's sitting on the sidelines that's going to come into crypto. And there's certain institutions that will not touch crypto in its current state. We're talking about from an ideology of something has to be censorship resistant, borderless, and permissionless. If Ethereum starts doing that, it's no longer censorship resistant. Now, someone mentioned Hex. This is where, and I'm glad you mentioned that, this is where now you have to be forward looking. What Richard did was genius. I still am not a fan of Richard Hart, the individual. But what I will say is the fact that you mint your own inflation and you control your own keys is a potential solution. Obviously, it's not the end all be all. Do not underestimate humans being able to be creative and solve problems. This is where, again, one of my students today, they landed a job with Coinbase. Funny. And I talk to you guys all the time about when there are problems, whoever creates the solution makes the money, right? You have to think and be forward looking, which is why you need to get involved in the technology from an entrepreneurial standpoint, as an investor, and also as a developer looking for employment, right? Whether it's from the front end, from the back end, being a copywriter. This is exactly why I created my tech academy in the first place. This technology is not going anywhere. You're starting to see huge institutions get involved in this. Whether or not it's centralized, decentralized, semi-decentralized, centralized, doesn't matter. This is the future. So what you need to be saying to yourself is, how do I get involved? If you're a person who sees a problem, and you want more privacy and anonymity, build it. If you want to create a solution where people can mint their own inflation, like Richard did, Richard went out here and he created Hex, which he felt was a solution to Ethereum, then you do that, right? He created Pulse Chain, which is a solution. He did that. But don't be a fool and go, oh, just admit that you were wrong. No. What we do is we solve problems. We acknowledge a potential problem, and then you solve the potential problem. What you don't do is go, oh, yeah, see, I told you it was a scam, because these things have not happened yet. See, the intelligent mind's able to sit here and actually sit down and think about problems and brainstorm. Ebard says, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. EO Bard. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Thanks for the donation. He says, I talked to E yesterday and asked him about coding. He recommended me to some websites that I could learn from and gave me a free book recommendation. I say it to say he is a real dude and that I will join MTA. Thank you. Appreciate it. And a link to join my tech academy is in the description below. But what I want to also say, and this is why I'm so heavy on DevOps, web development, programming, front end, back end, you name it, because those of you who develop these skills are going to be able to solve these problems. Now, what your ideology is going to determine what your solution is to the problem. Most people, like Charles, like Vitalik, like Do Kwon, they are people, like Brad Garlinghouse, who they want to be the rulers of a new system. They're not really looking to create freedom for people. They're trying to create a better version, but a version of the financial system that they control. So it all depends on, your ideology in regards to how you view the world. And I told you, the future is either going to be centralized or decentralized or somewhere in the middle. And I personally believe that when it's all said and done, we're going to end up somewhere in the middle of trade-offs between decentralization and centralization. What's happening with Ethereum potentially is completely different than Bitcoin. It's completely different than Monero. Different cryptocurrencies are designed differently. Ethereum is looking to transition from proof of work to proof of stake. Currently, right now, you need powerful graphics cards, GPUs, and a lot of energy to mine Ethereum. With Bitcoin, you need ASIC miners and energy to mine Bitcoin. And you have to do something known as hashing, which is simply trying to brute force a number. You're trying to guess a particular hash of a number. And then once you do that, once you do the work, that's why it's called proof of work, where you're simply sitting there guessing and checking, guessing and checking. And then after that, you construct your block, you guess the correct nonce, and then you propagate that block out. And then you basically submit it to the rest of the nodes, and they can start to push that block out. And for doing that correctly, you get to earn Bitcoin or Ethereum in this particular case. That makes sense. Why? Because it's very hard to collude, to get that many people to collude together at one time, right? Because if you have a miner, I have a miner, she has a miner, everyone has a miner. What proof of stake is doing is saying that only people, and we could do the math right now. We could pull this up and do this math together. Coin market cap, right? And where's my phone? We can do this math together, and we could say to ourselves that if we need 32 ETH times, what's the price of Ethereum right now? 32 ETH times 1820. This is to 1820. $58,000 is what you need to be a miner, to be a validator in the Ethereum network. And then on top of that, like for each one of my nodes that I'm running right now, probably in regards to hardware, probably costs me about $15,000. And then you need the technical know-how to be able to maintenance it, to set the node up. So that's more skill sets. The average person cannot do that. The average person can go and get a GPU and, run and mine Ethereum. The average person cannot set up a node, set the server up, and do all that. The average person just cannot do that. And also have enough money, $58,000. I believe it just was 58,000 plus another 10 to 15 on equipment. It's just not doable for the average person, right? It becomes a problem. Because now you're putting the power into the few, into the hands of the few, and not the many. And this is what's happening right now when you look at the breakdown in regards to how much Ethereum is staked with these actual large, centralized exchanges. Because at the end of the day, they have to abide by U.S. rules and regulations. So is proof of stake better than proof of work in any other situation, or is it ultimately a bad choice? There's an argument that, people believe that proof of work is bad for the environment. And this is why proof of stake just makes more sense. There are also people who talk about it from an economic standpoint, that it's much harder to do a 51% attack on a network like this because you have so much, of the actual money tied up in the actual coin. There's so many different, arguments that people come across. Some people don't like proof of work because they believe that it's centralized to whoever can produce the cheapest energy, or Bitmain and people who can produce silicon for cheaper to make the chips. It can be centralized from that aspect. One thing I've learned about crypto is that if you allow these people to talk unchallenged, people like Vitalik, Charles, Richard, if you let them talk unchallenged, they sound like geniuses. But whenever you see them actually sit down and talk to other people, they don't really have good answers. As I said right now, I've been challenging all of these people. I've been messaging them, asking them. No one's given me a good answer as to how can decentralized exchanges basically not abide by U.S. rules and regulations in the event that the government says you have to censor certain transactions. We don't have a good answer yet. That doesn't mean an answer is not coming. But as the merge is currently constructed, it's just not good. The only really true benefit I see about proof of stake, based upon my research, is more from just the environmental standpoint. I'm coming out with my own cryptos called Fade Coin. And you can earn these tokens while pulling up and knocking the sonic rings out of haters. Listen, man, I appreciate the donations, man. Eli, are you saying ETH is a new Solana? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. Solana from a technological standpoint is a failure. The way that Solana is currently constructed becomes a problem. Why? Because they have a problem relaying and being able to sync up their blockchain, which is why they constantly have to keep restarting their blockchain. If you have to restart your blockchain, that becomes extremely problematic. I'm talking about from what OFAC just did with Tornado Cash and what you're seeing USDC, what's happening with USDC and Circle. I'm speaking from that perspective only. And I'm talking about a hypothetical. You have to pose these questions and get answers, right? If right now, right, you're about to go to war, you don't wait until you're on a battlefield and go, oh, well, now I'm going to figure out how to line my soldiers up and how many tanks I need and how many planes I need. These things are supposed to be game planned. That's why it's called game theory. You're supposed to plan for these things before you get on the battlefield, not once you get on the battlefield. So remember, the merge has not happened yet. These things have not happened. But the way that it's currently constructed, this is a problem. And that's what I'm saying. Fade coin. Mm-hmm. 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 I like what Todd Mack just said. Noah built the ark before it started raining. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Darius Harper says, hi, don't mean to interrupt. You did reach out, correct? I know you warned us about imposters. Just wanted to make sure. I don't reach out to anyone first. So if someone reached out to you first, that's clearly an imposter trying to scam you. If me and you are already having a dialogue about an investment opportunity or about joining the academy, whatever the case may be, then yes, you're talking to me. My link to my Instagram is in the description below. If you're looking to invest with me, you're going to text the number below and text the word invest. If you're looking to get on my messaging list, you're going to text the word YouTube. All of the instructions are there for you. You have to make sure that you're following the instructions and just using some real basic common sense on the internet. I run a legitimate business. I have my validator nodes. Many of you who know, you see me post them on Instagram all the time. I have a business entity, right? We have a contract in place, right? Like, I'm not looking for you to cash at me money or PayPal me money, right? Like, you and I are going to do business in a legitimate way. Like, you're going to wire me money or you're going to send money via crypto. What I'm not going to do is ever ask you to, cash at me money or, put it into some Forex account. That's not how this goes over here. I've been doing this now I've been on this channel now for almost 4 years. I've been managing money now for over 5-6 years. So understand, if a person's reaching out to you first, that's a scammer. Is USDC now like a central bank digital currency? Absolutely, Financial Mind. Absolutely. And it becomes a problem for DAI because remember, DAI is an algorithmic stablecoin. And the way that DAI works is that collateral has to come in to then mint the new DAI. And 54% of the actual collateral backing DAI that's in circulation is USDC. So in the event that the feds want to seize a large portion of that, again, do I think this is going to happen? No. But you have to pose the actual question. Because how can something be decentralized? How can the DAI stablecoin be decentralized if a large portion of it is backed by a centralized stablecoin? Right? These are the questions that you have to make sure that you're posing, because now there are other decentralized stablecoins out here. And I'll be getting into that, in future videos. But right now we have to think about that, right? Like, how can an algorithmic, because if you would have asked these same questions about UST, you would not have gotten stuck holding the bag with UST and Luna. Right. So now Ben Dover says, why would the rich allow a decentralized currency? It's not about them allowing it. They already exist. Ethereum was fine with proof of work. Bitcoin is fine with proof of work. Monero is fine. We have cryptocurrencies that's fine. What's happening is that you have really, really rich people getting together and trying to recreate the traditional financial system in crypto, right? So rather than the Rothschilds and Bilderbergs and DuPonts and Wahlbergs controlling the money system, now they want the Vitaliks, the Charles, and the Do Kwons, etc., to be the rulers of the new system. What I'm here to say to you is that this is how you educate yourself to make calculated decisions. This is going to be beneficial to Ethereum in regards to price. We're talking about it from a technological standpoint, right? The risk is a regulatory risk now in regards to the attack vector, right? So, and I love what you just said. Why would the rich allow it? If your coin is decentralized, it doesn't matter if they allow it or not. They can't stop it, right? See, when you understand that, then you're okay. Because if something is truly decentralized, and this is why what Satoshi did when he walked away from the program, the protocol is powerful because now you don't have to worry about them coming after you. Now, I do believe that the government knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, right? But at this point, Bitcoin is the project has been going on for so long that it's living without Satoshi. Beautiful question. A few of my students in the academy, they're making some great money with Ethereum Classic. I've said this multiple times. They're already talking. I will be doing a video about the Ethereum proof of work fork that they're working on right now. I think that that's absolute bullshit. But I totally agree with you in regards to Cadena is definitely going to be a solution that people are going to be looking for. Ethereum Classic is another project that's going to pump because all of that hash rate and hash power, that's going to go somewhere, right? That the hashing power and hash rate is going to go, like, people are not going to just say, I have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 of mining equipment. I'm not going to do anything with it. So this is going to be a chance for many of the other proof of work coins to survive and do well and thrive. But now, and this is another video that I'm going to be doing on Sunday, when we start talking about ESG and these environmental accords that are being put together. Remember, they cannot break the technology. They cannot break Bitcoin. And this is why people hate Bitcoin maximalists, because many of Bitcoin maxis, to their own detriment, they are stubborn and they're not looking to change their belief systems, which is good. You need zealots at some point. You do need religious zealots. Here's the thing, though. With this whole new ESG, these accords and rules and mandates, they're trying to collude together to basically make it seem that proof of work mining is bad for the environment. And there's plenty of studies that prove otherwise, but that's how they're going to try to attack it. And this is why you have Ripple, and now you have Ethereum, and you have Cardano. They're all trying to move to this proof of stake system, right? So again, you have the financial elite getting together with the elites of crypto, and they're basically trying to create a new version of the banking system. Will we make money from this? Absolutely. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about in regards to humanity, right? Beating the fourth industrial revolution, being sovereign. And I think that a lot of these proof of work coins, for as long as they're not being attacked by these new ESG standards, they should thrive and do okay. But then you have to start thinking about companies like BlackRock, and Citadel and all of these large institutions, how they're literally weaponizing their money. And they're basically, penalizing companies that do not abide by these ESG standards. So, like I said before, in the short term, many of these proof of work coins are going to pump massively. Like if we come here and we look at Ethereum Classic, Ethereum Classic, look at this. Ethereum Classic's been on a tear over the past month. Just look at the moves that it's had. It's basically up 100%, 3 months, right? Yes, basically up 100%. The low was here at $16, so it's definitely been pumping, and I expect it to keep pumping. Let's look at Cardano and see what it did. KDA. I don't own any KDA, by the way, but I've been hearing a lot about it. Let's look and see what it's been doing over the past 7 days. Been trading down for $1.80. Wow. Let's look at this coin, because I keep hearing a lot about it. Woo! I might buy some of this. Interesting. Market cap is $303 million. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Definitely an easy 10x. Definitely. Self-made stated, when do you see crypto becoming so basically, when will crypto be used to purchase real world assets? You can already buy real estate with crypto, depending on the actual individual. Like in Miami, a lot of people purchase real estate with crypto. You could even take out mortgages backed by crypto. So that type of stuff's already happening. In regards to being able to get loans and purchase real estate with crypto, real world assets. There's crypto debit cards that already exist, so that type of stuff is already there. So that type of stuff already exists. But in regards to like being mainstream, I just think that over time that's going to happen naturally. I love what that crypto guy just said. You summed up this entire 1 hour I just been speaking. He stated, with Ethereum, we are trading in the Federal Reserve for validators. BTC over Ethereum. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I own Ethereum is my second largest position. I know that I'm going to do well financially by holding Ethereum. But in regards to what's happening with the concept of validators and the fact that they can start censoring transactions, 100%. I totally agree with you. Bucky to Icy, hey, Mr. Whitehead. You'll be receiving one this weekend. Please help me. Not one masterclass at all. There's definitely one in there, so I don't know what's going on with you. Pop, 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 pop. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. And Buck 2 Icy, there's a whole new course in there, so there's plenty of new content in there. So I mean, you can you could troll if you want to. That's beautiful, but there's plenty of content in there. Zero Cool just put together a whole new course, so troll better. Mhm. Being best thing Satoshi did was disappear. CEOs make the protocol a liability. Absolutely. And like I said before, that becomes the biggest problem because if I can go after an entity, if I can go after an individual, then that becomes a problem because now your freedom is on the line. And see, one thing we've learned about the pandemic is that when people have to choose between, comfort, safety, and, fear, right? And security, in most cases, people are going to acquiesce to the government and whatever the government decides to do. So I think that you guys need to be mindful of, what's going on in regards to human nature, right? Like if I'm a CEO and I have the ability to make billions of dollars and, all I got to do is just kind of follow a little bit of government rules and regulations, you know, I can definitely see that happening, where people are going to acquiesce at the end of the day, which is why you need the protocol and code to be law, right? And a group of developers should not be able to get together and at any time just collude together and say, okay, well, we're going to change the rules to be this. And this is kind of the reason why at the end of the day, although I don't like Bitcoin maximalists, I think that they're foolish in their way of thinking. I understand why they think the way that they think in regards to it's better to be an extremist and protect the protocol than to kind of be, more of an experimental person. Mm-hmm. The masterclass material is in the actual portal inside of the actual MyTech Academy. If you go to the website, you can log in. Your masterclass is back there. And there's going to be another one back there this weekend. The masterclass that I put together was how you can actually convert your crypto into fiat without having to go through a centralized exchange. Just like a 2-hour video that's back there. Just simply log into the actual portal right here. I'll show you. You can come here to MyTech Academy. You log in. You go to products. When you get to products, there's over 14 different courses. I know for a fact there's no way that you went through all of the courses. And there's a course probably on the second page called Crypto Masterclasses. You log in here. Or you can just come into the Slack group and I'll drop the link for you. But you got to be trolling. That's all I could think of. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. 757 says Trucker says the shift in wealth is happening. Much respect to you, brother. Absolutely. Thanks for the donation. Lion 2 says this is what happens when you are too smart for your own good and disconnected from the Holy Spirit. Shaking my head, educated fools. Okay. The Shipster. It's funny. So my opinion is that Satoshi Nakamoto is actually multiple people. That is not one individual. That they realize the technical limitations of Bitcoin, and they all split up and start working on their own projects. I believe Adam Beck, Nick Szabo, Hal Finney, Sergey Nazarov, what's the other guy from XLM? Jeb. And there's one other individual I believe was actually Satoshi Nakamoto. Like all of those people, Gavin Andresen, all of those individuals that was on that actual mailing list that Satoshi was talking to, Maxwell, all of these individuals were actually out there and working on the actual Bitcoin protocol. And then they realized that Bitcoin was technically limited, and they moved on to Chainlink and, Stellar and HBAR. What's another one that I believe they moved on to? Can't think of the top of my head. Especially if you look at like a lot of the IP addresses and the messaging and the programming languages that they picked. Sergey Nazarov, Satoshi Nakamoto, both of them have the same, letters for the first and last name. It just all makes sense. The smart contract domain name was registered about a week after the Bitcoin white paper came out. And then now the smart contract domain name belongs to Chainlink Labs. I mean, like, if you just look at a lot of the forensics around the way the whole thing played out, there's definitely multiple people, that's Satoshi Nakamoto, that are now out here working on different projects. But again, I think that they've come to the actual the realization that this technology is just not going to be fully decentralized. I told you guys this before. Humans like being controlled. A lot of humans don't like the concept and idea of being free, right? Because freedom requires responsibility, and it's very, very easy to give responsibility to someone else, right? Like, it's hard to manage your own keys. It's hard to go out here and store your keys properly, run your own nodes. That's hard to do. It's easier to just give it to Binance or Kraken and say, hey, make me money, right? You do all of the technical stuff. You stake my coins for me and just give me the money. So that's just the way people are wired to think and be, which is why you're going to have protocols like Monero, protocols like Bitcoin, and then you're going to have things like Ethereum that's slowly going to shift to this combination and blend between decentralization and centralization. So Lion 2 says, not trolling. I love you all. Just trying to warn you. Repent. Judgment is coming. Thank you. Eli, can the government come after Ledger Wallet? They can't necessarily come after the technology. And see, this goes back to what I was saying before. It's the same thing with Tornado Cash. So what happens with Ledger, hypothetical, there's a data leak. Ledger has your credit card or debit card information, which means they have your address. They have an email address affiliated with you because you purchased from them. They probably stored your metadata as well. They probably stored, your address that they shipped it to. So they know you have a ledger, right? Because they have that data about you. So in the event that they come knock on your door with 5 guys dressed in black and they ask you for your ledger, what are you going to do? Right? Right? These are things that you have to think about, right? Like in the middle of the night, if 5 guys dressed in black say, listen, I'm from the government and I know you got a ledger in here, you know what I'm saying? And you got to turn it over. What are you going to do in that event, right? Most people, if they're faced with that type of challenge and threat, they're going to say, you know what? Yeah, here, take my ledger. Right? So these things become, you got to start really saying to yourself and just asking yourself, are you prepared for these things? So the technology, can they break the technology? No. But can they break you? Yes. The crypto guy says they can have the ledger, but the keys are in my head. Financial Mind. I plan on covering that at a later date too. Ontario government in Canada is limiting crypto to acquisition, a sign of things to come. Yeah, basically they're saying like, I believe there's only 4 coins that you can purchase more than $30,000 worth of the coin. Any other coins you only can purchase less than 30,000. Yeah, listen, it's coming. I like what Archie just said. What about the Bitcoin maxis trying to get everything labeled as a security, including Ethereum? Guys, and I love that question. The best thing that happened to Ripple is them getting sued by the SEC. Because once they finally get the clarity that is needed, it's going to pump. Not because of the technology. Ripple is shit. Ripple is absolute garbage. What's going to happen is Ripple's either going to do an IPO. Mark my words. I can already see it happening. Once they get the regulatory clarity with the SEC and in regards to a working framework, I can see Ripple going public. Regulation is going to benefit the crypto space. It's not going to hurt it. It's going to hurt new cryptocurrency projects trying to launch, but it's going to benefit those that actually have the proper treasury to be able to follow the rules and regulations. As I was saying, like right now, this type of censorship that can come to Ethereum is going to make the bankers feel more comfortable putting money into it. Right? I'm just talking from an ideology from an ideology standpoint. This is bad. This is not good. Being able to censor transactions isn't good. But trust me, getting labeled as security and actually once that framework is created is going to be a good thing. Because more capital is going to come. More money is going to flow because you have to think about there are large institutions sitting on billions of dollars, if not trillions, that needs to be invested. And once they get the regulatory clarity that they're looking for, they're going to invest. Like Tom Mack just said, government picks winners and losers. Absolutely. So if you have a big enough bankroll to abide by these new rules and regulations, you're going to be able to thrive. Your project will thrive. If you are a small person just getting started, you're not going to be able to do an ICO and raise the amount of capital that you want to without going through the rules and regulations. But with that being said, guys, we're coming up on 1 hour and 17 minutes. I don't want to make this too long. I want to wrap this up here. With this being said, I want to leave this as a closing statement. No validator has censored any transactions as of today. This video is talking about after the merge happens, that opens up a new attack vector from a regulatory standpoint. Meaning, if the government comes to these major validators right here, that's sitting on all of this ETH, right here we can see Lido, Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, Stake US, Bitcoin Suisse, Rocket Pool, etc. And they say to them, you cannot validate any block that has these particular transactions in them. Will they follow suit? That is a legitimate question, a legitimate concern. And just from following basic logic, one would assume that Coinbase would follow rules and regulations. Why? Because they're going to be making so much money from staking these coins that it just makes sense to follow the rules and regulations. So that at that point, Ethereum is no longer censorship resistant. When we look at what's happening with USDC, the fact that they can blacklist particular addresses and that so much USDC is sitting in these liquidity vaults, right? That in these liquidity pools and in vaults and Maker, that becomes a problem, right? Because if this liquidity pool has USDC in it, let's say it has $200 million and $50 million of it is confiscated and pulled back from USDC, what happens to the actual pool? These are legitimate questions, and there hasn't been any legitimate responses or answers. Now, all DAI has to do is just change its collateral mix and go from not being so heavily reliant on USDC. I'm not saying that there isn't solutions. I'm saying that people need to start thinking about them now before we rush to proof of stake is what I'm speaking about. So with that being said, guys, please like the video, share the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell, make sure that you set it to all. Please join my messaging list. Simply text the word YouTube to the number in the description below. If you are looking to invest in the different investment opportunities that I have, you are going to text the word invest to that same number. If you want to get on a mailing list, you text YouTube. If you want to get on my investors list, you text the word invest. We have different investment opportunities from as low as $1,000 as high as $25,000. Also, a link to follow me on Instagram is in the description below as well. You can follow me over on Instagram. You can shoot me a DM. There's a lot of people out here impersonating me. I would never email you first. I would not ask you to cash at me money. I'm not kidnapped by some Russian hackers or anything like that. Guys, use discernment. There's a lot of people trying to copy me. I don't have a WhatsApp group or Telegram chat or any of these things. Follow instructions and you will be fine. If you're someone that's looking to learn about all things Web3, whether it's from buying crypto as an investor, whether it's from seeking employment in this space and getting skills, whether you're trying to come at this from an entrepreneurial standpoint, I created my Tech Academy where we cover all things Web3, how to buy, sell, store your cryptocurrencies. We dive into NFTs. We dive into different DeFi concepts, yield farming, liquidity mining. If it's involved with Web3, we cover it. I'm bringing in an IT professional that has well over 12 years worth of experience, all of the certifications that you could possibly need. He will be teaching inside of the academy as well. We have a free 3-day trial. Simply click the link, come test it out, and see if you like it. If you do not like it, you can simply cancel and leave. With that being said, guys, have a blessed and beautiful evening, and understand the future is what you will make it.